Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there are a lot of different things you could be doing on a Tuesday night. So I really appreciate you spending some time with us to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how you can use it more effectively in your homeschool. A few housekeeping notes. We are recording this session, and as soon as the recording is available, we'll go ahead and send each and every one of you an email with a link to that so you can review that whenever you like. We're set to go for about an hour or so, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. I'm happy to stay on as long as necessary to answer all of your questions. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's go ahead and see what we're going to cover tonight. We will cover a few things. First of all, we'll talk a little bit about where to find help within Homeschool Tracker. So if you've used Homeschool Tracker, you've likely seen that it's a very feature-rich program. So want to show you all the best places to find help if you ever need any along the way. Then we'll talk a little about the interface and kind of go over the menu and where to find different things. Then we'll discuss subjects and courses and the difference between the two and why that's important. Then we'll talk about assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll discuss lesson plans, which are a really popular feature within Homeschool Tracker and can save you a lot of time. Then we'll talk about reports and specifically the daily task list. We'll also talk about report cards and transcripts. And then we'll go over workflows. And what we mean by workflows is really just how you might use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day basis. And we'll likely cover a lot of those along the way, but then we'll certainly recap at the end as well. And then, like I mentioned, we will we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. So before we actually dive in, I do want to just, again, say thank you for joining us. You know, it's not only our mission here at Homeschool Tracker to create the products and tools to allow you to be more effective in your homeschool, but really it's also to go beyond that and to give you the training and the support so that you can use those tools more effectively. And that's really what webinars and training sessions like tonight are really all about. Being here for you, showing you the ins and outs, and answering all of your questions. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So first off, where to find help? You know, I think probably the best place to find help within Homeschool Tracker is right here on these webinars. We do these pretty much once a month, sometimes more often than that. And you can always find the next webinar if you just go to our website and go to the support tab and then go to the training center. Here you'll see all of the upcoming training events. So this is the one that we're doing tonight. Our next one is August 22nd. And you can also see all of the replays of the previous training events. There's one here specifically on lesson planning that we did a while back. I highly recommend checking that out if you're at all interested in using the lesson planning tool within Homeschool Tracker. We go really in depth on how to use that within that webinar. But these are really just great sessions where you can come on and they're a little bit different every time, and they can also be guided a lot by your questions. So like I mentioned at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions, and it's really a great time to kind of learn together and try new things together as well. The other place that I would recommend for getting help would be our Getting Started tutorial videos. So on our main help site, which is just help.homeschooltracker.com, right here at the top is our 11-part Getting Started video guide. Each one of these videos is just a few minutes long, and you can just jump to whichever one you're interested in, and it gives you a quick tutorial on how to do that particular task. I would also mention the help documentation in general. So again, help.homeschooltracker.com. And this is really kind of a reference guide for the program. So one thing I like to show folks is that within Homeschool Tracker, let me just switch over to that real quick. Let's say you're on any particular screen within Homeschool Tracker. I'm just going to go to the calendar view real quick here. And if I click on this help link up here at the top right, that will take me directly to the corresponding help page for that screen. So this is the help page for the agenda calendar view. It has everything and anything I ever wanted to know about that page, including links to relevant areas. So that's really a helpful feature. If you're ever looking for more information about the page that you're on within Homeschool Tracker, just try clicking on that help button in the top right. Now, this help guide is also searchable. So if you have anything specific you're looking for, let's say I'm interested in creating days off within Homeschool Tracker, I can just type that into the search and go directly to the corresponding page on how to set up days off within Homeschool Tracker. So really a powerful help guide. And like I mentioned, it is really kind of a reference guide. So using that search capability, or clicking on that help link will really kind of get you where you want to go. And then last but not least, you can email us at support@homeschooltracker.com anytime. We respond to each and every email that we receive, typically within 1 to 2 business days. And you can email us with any type of question, whether it be kind of a technical one on how do you do one specific thing, or if you're interested in kind of strategies or workflow ideas of how you might use Homeschool Tracker within your homeschool, we're happy to help with those as well. So feel free to email us support@homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so let's jump into the interface. I want to kind of go through the interface and the different areas of the menu specifically so you know where to find various things. Let's close out some of these windows here. And I'm just going to go back to the main menu here. So when you first log into Homeschool Tracker, you're greeted with this main menu. And you can get to this menu at any time by clicking on this little down arrow here. And the menu is broken up into 5 different areas. So up here in the top left, you have the schedules and planning section of the menu. This is where you'll find the agenda, both in calendar view as well as list view. And the agenda is really just that. It's just a list of all of the different things that you or your student need to do on a particular day. And you can view that both in a calendar form as well as in a list form. And we'll go over both of those tonight. Below that are your lesson plans, if you have any lesson plans. Below that is the shared lesson plan library, where you can import or share lesson plans that have been created by other users. The lower left section of the menu, this is the student section. This is where the main student list is. This is where you can set the grade levels for your students. This is also where the grading overview is, where you can see each and every grade that your student received over a given time period. This is where you'll find the lesson plans and presets page, which we'll talk about a little bit later tonight, as well as the transcript supplemental. This is where you can add different things that would be appended to your student's transcript, like special awards or achievements, that sort of thing. The middle section of the menu, this is the report section. So each one of these items here is a report that you can generate. And reports are generated as PDF files, which you could download to print or email or save. So everything from the attendance report to a course list report, the daily task list, which we'll talk about later, report cards and transcripts are all here. Now in the top right section of the menu, this is what we call the Manage List section. And it's really more of a maintenance area of the program. And we say that because you're most likely not going to be in and out of these different screens here in this section of the menu on a day-to-day basis. So basically, each one of these items here, activities, chore names, courses, this is where you would set those up to either create new activities, edit activities, or delete activities, create a new course, edit a course, delete a course. And that's why we really call it more of a maintenance area, because you definitely need to go in there at times to create those things or edit them, but you're probably not going in and out of them on a day-to-day basis. Now, the bottom right section of the menu, this is the Your Account section. This is where you'll find your main program options. This is where you can set up your school profile, as well as find the subscription and users section of the program. This is where you can modify your subscription settings. You could create different user accounts for your students or other teachers. That's all right here. So that's just a quick overview of the menu within Homeschool Tracker. Let's dive into subjects and courses. So we like to talk about subjects and courses on these training sessions because it's important to understand the distinction between the two, especially if you're just getting started, because you want to make sure that you set up your subjects and courses right up front so that you're setting up yourself for success. And so when we think about subjects within Homeschool Tracker, these are really those broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, or science, those really kind of core subjects, those broad subjects that we all know and love, right? And courses within Homeschool Tracker are the specific areas of study within a subject. And a course might be something that you only take, for example, for a short period of time, whether it be a semester or for a year, and that would fall within a subject. So for example, Algebra 2 might be the name of a course that would belong to the subject of math. Composition 1 would be the name of a course that would belong to the subject of language arts. And Physical Science 1 might be the name of a course that would belong to the subject of science. So you can see the naming conventions here are really important because the names of your courses are specific, right? They're Algebra 2, Composition 1, Physical Science 1, and the names of your subjects are really broad. Things just like math, language arts, history, science, social studies, that sort of thing. So let's take a look at what this looks like within Homeschool Tracker. I'm going to go back over to the program here, and I'm going to click on the subjects link here under the Manage List section. And so this is where I would set up my subjects, create subjects, edit subjects, delete subjects, that sort of thing. And as you can see, I have 4 in here right away. I have history, language arts, math, and science. And you'll notice that they're just kind of listed here in a list, and there's not really a whole lot of other information. And that's because subjects, like I mentioned, are really just broad areas of study. And there's not a lot that we necessarily need to do with a subject. So for example, if I just double click on history, just to take a look at it, I can edit it here, and I can change the name of it. I could change it from a core to an elective. I see all the courses that kind of belong to this subject. So I have a course called Ancient History 1 that falls underneath history. And I could make history either active or inactive. But other than that, there's not really a lot of settings or other things to do within the subjects list. Now, on the other hand, if I go to the courses list here, you'll see already I have a lot more courses, and there's a lot more information because courses can have different options turned on or off, or you can have different settings for each course. So for example, if I open up this one here, Ancient History 1, take a look at it. I see the name of it is Ancient History 1. The subject that it belongs to is history. I could have a code for this course. I can specify the number of credit units that course might be worth, how those credit units are calculated. This course, for example, could have a different type of grading scale if I wanted. It could be a pass-fail. It could be, an honors course or something like that. I could turn on weighted grading for this course if I wanted to. I can add in notes for this course, kind of a course description if you like, and I can make it active or inactive. So here you can see, at the course level, you can be much more granular in terms of the differences between courses, having one worth more credit units than the other, different grading scales, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and create a new course. I'm just going to go to Action, choose Add, and I'm going to give this course a name. I'm going to call it Reading 1. And for Reading 1, the subject would be Language Arts. So I'll go ahead and type that in. I'm going to stop right there because as you may have noticed, as I was typing, Language Arts popped up down here. And that's because this field here is what we call a smart entry field. And what that means is as I'm typing, it's searching for the corresponding list for things that match what I'm typing. So in this case, it's searching the subjects list for anything that matches what I was typing in. So it's just kind of a quick and handy way to find the subject that you're looking for without having to type out the whole thing. The other advantage of that is that if I don't know the name of the subject that I want this to belong to, I could simply enter in a blank space, and I'll get a whole list of the available subjects. So I'll go ahead and click Language Arts. Now I'm going to keep the rest of these options just the default for now, but I'll go ahead and click Save. And then I can click this to refresh it. And here we go. I see I have my new course, Reading 1, which belongs to the subject of Language Arts. So that course is ready to go. I can go ahead and create assignments in that course. I can start using that as a way to collect data for that particular course. So that's really the difference between subjects and courses. Subjects, again, are those broad containers, really, areas of study. And then courses are the specific classes or courses that your student is taking within those subjects. Now, a few things to watch out for. I would not recommend using the exact same name for both a subject and course. And so that's why it's important to remember that courses must have like a more specific name. So it might be freshman biology or biology 101 or something like that. And keep those subject names really broad. Now, the other thing I'll mention, the typical Homeschool Tracker account typically has anywhere from say 5 to 10 subjects. Anything more than that, you might want to kind of think about how you're categorizing things. But you could have literally hundreds of courses, right? Because over the course of your homeschooling career, your student might be taking hundreds of courses. But they'll all kind of fall underneath a specific subject, for example. Now, the other thing to mention is that a slash shows the break between a subject and course. So if you don't see a slash, that means you're just looking at a subject. So let me show you what this looks like because it makes much more sense if you see it. So I'm just going to jump over to the agenda here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new assignment. And what you'll see here is when I'm creating a new assignment, I have this field here that's called subject/course. And what that is basically within the program, we consolidated the subject field and the course field into kind of one combined field because you end up using it quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead, again, this is a smart entry field, so I'm just going to hit the space bar. And what you'll see is a list of all of the subjects and all of the courses kind of combined into one. And so what you start seeing here are things like history slash ancient history one. So that means that if I select this one, that means I'm selecting the course Ancient History 1 because that slash denotes the separation between subject and course. If I had just selected history, then I would just be selecting the subject of history. So when you see that slash, what you're really looking at is the course. Okay, so now let's jump into assignments. So assignments are really anything that we give our students to complete, like a schoolwork task. So not necessarily a chore, but anything we want to track over time. So that could be anything from an assignment to a quiz. It could be a test. It could be a lab. It could even be like a field trip. It could be homework. Anything that we want to physically assign to our student and then track its completion over time. Now, assignments are really the heart of all of our record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. That's why you have them right here in the middle. And so they can come from a couple different places. Assignments can be created individually or in a series, or they can come from lesson plans, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And once those lesson plans get scheduled, they will generate assignments. And from those assignments, all that data that's in assignments, all that tracking that you put into assignments, all of these different reports can be generated. So you can generate report cards and transcripts. You can generate attendance reports if you have automatic attendance enabled. You can generate the daily task list. You can generate a whole slew of other reports. And so that's why we really think about assignments as the heart of all of our record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Now, assignments, when you create an assignment, it looks a little bit like this. We actually just saw this a moment ago. And typically, an assignment really only needs three things. It needs a student, it needs a subject course, and it needs a date. Those are the only required fields. Now, obviously, all these other fields here are helpful. And the more information you put into an assignment, the more you can essentially get out of an assignment. So, for example, if you need to track time spent, for example, then you're probably going to want to use the time spent field. If you need to generate grades and create report cards and that sort of thing, then, well, you're probably going to want to use the points possible and points earned fields. Anything that you think you may need to track over time, then you want to start using those fields because the more information you put into an assignment, the more you can get out through those different reports. Now, the idea of an assignment is that it's tracked over time, which means that its completion over time is important. So as soon as you mark an assignment complete by a teacher, a number of things can happen. Attendance can be recorded, the grades can be generated, time spent can be calculated, and all of those reports can be generated. So not until you mark an assignment as complete does it really kind of get entered into, say, the grade book, for example. So it's important to not just create the assignments, but then to follow up on the assignments and either mark them complete or delete them or whatever it might be based off of the work that you and your students did. So let's do a little demo on assignments here. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. So let's jump back over here. We're going to start off in the calendar view here. And like the name implies, it looks like a calendar. So real quick, you can have different views of this calendar, either by the day, by week, by the work week. You can see the whole month, that sort of thing. I'll keep it on work week for right now. But what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and create a new assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Add, Assignment Single. And I'll go ahead and choose a student. I'm going to choose my daughter, Campbell. And let's go ahead and choose a subject course. Now, remember, this is a smart entry field, which is why it says type to search here. Or I could just hit spacebar and see a list of everything. I'm going to choose Ancient History 1. For activity, this is going to be a lesson. And for resources are anything in your library that you've designated a resource. So typically textbooks or workbooks, that sort of thing. I'm just going to pick one here. PLC stands for Page Lesson Chapter. So let's call this Lesson 1. I can add links, directions, notes. I'm going to go ahead and pick a date for this. I'll just have it be for today. And I'm going to choose a time as well. I'll say it went from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now, if you don't need to pick times here, that's totally fine. You can leave that blank and it'll create an all-day assignment. And then points possible and earned. I'm going to say this was worth 10 points. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and click save. And there you go. Now I have an assignment on my calendar. It says Campbell Ancient History 1, and it's a lesson, and it's lesson 1. Now let's say that the day kind of came and went, and I want to go ahead and grade this assignment and mark it complete. Well, I can just go ahead and double click on it. And when you double click on it, you see a quick preview of it here. You can do a few quick things like mark it complete and grade it all right here. But if you want to edit the more details, you can just click on more. And I'm back to this screen here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give her a grade. I'm going to say she got 9 out of 10. And I'm going to go ahead and check the box here for teacher complete. Now, once I did that, you'll notice that it calculated the grade of 90%. So now if I go ahead and click on save, a couple things happen. So first off, this assignment got a little bit darker in color. It's just showing me that that one has been marked complete. Additionally, this Campbell present showed up here. And what that is an attendance record. So I have automatic attendance enabled on my account. And what that means is that basically it assumes that if you have marked an assignment complete for a student on a given day, then most likely that student was in attendance that day. So let's go ahead and create an attendance record for her. Now you can change those settings. You can turn that on or off. You can specify different parameters in your program options, but it is definitely kind of a convenient tool there so that I don't have to create a separate attendance record. But there you have it. I just created a single assignment. I graded it and I marked it complete. And now many Homeschool Tracker users might do just that. You know, you can imagine each and every day kind of coming in here, creating assignments, marking them complete and saving them, and you'll be on your way. Now you could do that perhaps in the morning. You could do it at night for the day before. But what we're finding a lot of folks doing, and could be a cool way to kind of get started with Homeschool Tracker, is to actually do it retrospectively. So at the end of the day, you could come in here and create all the assignments and all the work that you and your students did for that day, and kind of use Homeschool Tracker more as a logging tool and less of a planning tool. This works really well if, for example, you have already some kind of planner that you're using. Let's say it's a binder of some sort or a different kind of system, and that's totally fine. But what you can do then is basically just come in here at the end of the day and kind of use this as a grade book, essentially, and just create all the assignments that you did that day, give them grades and mark them complete, and you're good to go. So lots of different ways to use Homeschool Tracker. Now, the next thing I want to do is go ahead and create multiple assignments at once, because let's say I wanted to create assignments for the whole week for this particular course. I could go ahead and do that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click on Add, and I'll choose Assignment Multiple. And what I'm presented with here is the Add Multiple Assignments wizard. So each one of these tabs here at the top is a different stage in the wizard, and we'll kind of go through each one of them. So first off, I could create these assignments for more than one student at a time, which is cool. So I'm still just going to create them for Campbell, but if I wanted to create them for more than one, I could check that box here. I'll go ahead and pick the subject, course, and again, these will be lessons. Let's go ahead and pick a resource here. And let's create a start and end time. We'll call it from 8 to 10, and these will also be worth 10 points. Now I'll continue to day and date. That takes me to the next tab. I want this to happen every day, and I'm going to have the start date be, let's have that be tomorrow. And I have two options here. I can continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted, or I can continue creating items until a specific end date. I'm going to choose this first option just because I want to show you how that works. So I'll continue to PLC. Now, if you remember, PLC stands for Page Lesson Chapter. And when you think about Page Lesson Chapter, most likely, if you're creating multiple items or multiple assignments, they're each not going to have necessarily the same page lesson chapter, right? So you might imagine the first one would have lesson 1, the next one would have lesson 2, the next one would have lesson 3, etc. So what we've done here is we've given you the ability to automatically increment the PLC as you create more assignments. So I'm going to choose one part auto increment. And what I can do here is change the leading text to lesson. And I'm going to start with lesson 2 because I already created lesson 1 a moment ago. And I'm going to end with lesson 4, and I'm going to increment by 1. Okay. If I want to see a sample of what that's going to look like, I can just click here, and it'll show me lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. So what I'm going to do next is continue to preview. And all this is the preview of what I'm about to create. So you can see Because I chose that option to continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted, all it's doing is it's creating 3 assignments for me because I said start with lesson 2 and end with lesson 4. And I'm starting on Wednesday. And so basically I'm creating lessons for the rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if I'm happy with how this looks, I can just select all of these and then choose accept selected items. And there you have it. Now I'm back on the agenda and you'll see I have 3 assignments here and they go lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Now, obviously, if I had put in the PLC pattern, if I put start with lesson 2 and end with lesson 10, for example, it would have gone and created many more of these, right, all the way to lesson 10. But I just wanted to fill out the rest of this week. So that's how you would create multiple assignments at once. And again, thinking about workflow, you could come in here on a Monday morning or a Sunday night and create assignments for each one of your courses for the entire week and be ready to go. Okay, so I want to show you how this also looks in our list view. Before we go over there, I just want to kind of go over a few things on the calendar view, different features here. So up here at the top, these blue tabs, these are filters. So let's say, for example, I wanted to only view the items for specific students. I could do that here. I could view just specific types of items. So for example, if I turn off attendance right here, that goes away and I'm just viewing everything except for attendance. Turn that back on. I can choose to only view certain completion statuses if I like, or to view just specific courses or subjects. I can also export to PDF this view here. So if I click on that, it will create a PDF file and download it. And now I have a PDF here of my calendar that I could print out or I could email it to somebody. I can navigate, the various time frames here. And then at the bottom, I have this option to show full day. So if I click on that, now the day starts at midnight and it goes to midnight. Or I can click on show school hours. And my school hours start at 8 a.m. and they go to 5 p.m. You can change that in your program options. So lots of different options here within the calendar view. Excuse me. So let's jump over to the list view, the agenda list view. Now, keep in mind, the calendar view and the list view, they're the exact same agenda, right? It's all the same information. It's the same data. It's just being presented to you differently so that you can modify it or edit it or view it differently. So when we were in the calendar view, it's very convenient and kind of intuitive to see how it's laid out on a day-by-day basis, but it's a little bit limiting, for example, if you wanted to kind of quickly at a glance see how items compared to each other. Or, for example, if you wanted to edit more than one item at a time, you couldn't necessarily do that in the calendar view. However, you can do that in the list view. So here we are in the list view, and you can see all of the same items that we had in the calendar view. So, for example, here's that attendance record. Here's that first assignment we created. This is lesson 1. And then these are those 3 other assignments I created, lesson 2, 3, and 4. So it's kind of handy to be able to see all of them kind of stacked next to each other like this. Like, so for example, I can see, oh, this one's already been graded. She got a 90% on that. These haven't been graded yet. You can kind of quickly see how things look at a glance here. Now, the list view has a lot of the same features as the calendar view. Over here in the green column, these are your filters. So I can view the date range that I'm looking at. I can view specific students or different types of items, completion statuses, etc. Those are all here. These different columns here, I can sort by these columns. I can also group by these columns. So if I wanted to group, I could take this column and drag it up here. So now all my assignments are grouped together. All my attendance records are grouped together. I could search within here if I was looking for something specific. So lots of flexibility here in the list view. One of the best parts about the list view is the ability to edit more than one item at a time. So let's go ahead and choose these 3 assignments, lessons 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to choose Action, Multi-Edit. So I can change things for all 3 of those assignments at once. So let's say I want to go ahead and grade these. I'm going to give them a grade. I'll give her 8 out of 10 on all of those. And I'm going to mark them teacher complete. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And there you go. So now each one of these has now been given a grade of 80%. They all have this T here for teacher complete. And you'll notice that it created attendance records for each one of those days as well, because I have automatic attendance enabled. So really a powerful way to quickly modify more than one item at a time and to see a lot of information all at once. So that's the agenda list view. So as you can see, the agenda is a really powerful tool. It's something you'll probably be in and out of on a day-to-day basis. So it's important to understand how it works and the differences between the calendar view and the list view and how you can use both of those to your advantage. Okay, so just to recap, we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades, and we marked those complete. And we did that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. Okay, so lesson plans. Let's talk a little bit about lesson plans, what they are, and how to use them. So lesson plans within Homeschool Tracker are really a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So this is perfect if you want to plan everything out in detail for a given course, either all at once, or if you have a predefined curriculum. So let's say you purchased a curriculum off the shelf and it already has a lesson plan with it. You can basically translate that into Homeschool Tracker and kind of follow along. Now, the nice thing about lesson plans is they're not tied to a particular student, and that means that they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So if you created a lesson plan, say for freshman biology, for your oldest student, you could create all that. And then when your younger student gets to that course, you can just pull up that same lesson plan and be ready to go, not have to recreate a lot of that. Now, the other nice thing about lesson plans is they can be imported using our shared lesson plan library. So there's over 1,000 lesson plans in that library currently, all created by other users, and a lot of them are based off of off-the-shelf curriculum. So definitely worth checking that out as well. So lesson plans, they're a really powerful tool. They are more advanced. I'll come right out and say it. It's definitely a more advanced tool within Homeschool Tracker. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend you just jump right into lesson plans. If you're just starting out, it might be good to kind of stick with assignments and just doing things like we just did for a few weeks or a few months at first. And as you get used to how things work, you can start diving into lesson plans. So let's go ahead and take a look at what a lesson plan is and what it looks like. So what we'll do is we will see an example lesson plan. We'll create a simple one, and then we'll import one from that shared lesson plan library. Then we'll schedule those lesson plans and discuss how to schedule them using presets as well. So let's jump back into Homeschool Tracker. And I'm going to go over to the lesson plan screen here. Now, if you're just starting out, you might not have any lesson plans in here. I happen to have a few already, so I'm just going to pull one up just so you can see what it looks like. Now, right off the bat, this screen looks a lot like the agenda list view, right? It's a very similar paradigm. You have the filters here on the left, you have columns here that you can sort and group by, and then you have all the items here. Now, unlike the agenda list view where we saw lots of assignments, in terms of the items, these items here are lesson plan items. Now, a lesson plan item is very, very, very similar to an assignment. However, it's not an assignment because it hasn't actually been assigned yet. It hasn't been scheduled yet. A lesson plan item, you can think of it as almost like an assignment template. So if I open this up, you'll notice that it looks a lot like an assignment, except it's missing a few things, right? It doesn't have a student, and it doesn't have a date. Instead, it has everything else, and it has a day number. This day number signifies the day number within that lesson plan that you were supposed to do this particular item. So day 1 of the lesson plan, this is what you need to do. On day 2, you need to do whatever day 2 says, etc. Now, day 1 and 2, they don't necessarily need to be Monday and Tuesday. They could be Monday and Wednesday, or whatever, whenever you get to that specific lesson plan item. So you can kind of, if you're very visual like I am, you can kind of picture a lesson plan, and the lesson plan items is like a stack of individual pieces of paper on your desk. And at the top is lesson plan item number 1 for day 1. And when you assign it, you take that piece of paper off and you go and you give it to your student. Now it becomes an assignment. But before that, it's literally just a stack of papers, and it's organized in a particular order. And that's what a lesson plan is. And each one of those pieces of paper is a different lesson plan item. And when it comes time to actually schedule it or assign it, you might grab one off the top. Maybe you make a copy of it and you give it to your student. So that's kind of how I think about lesson plans and all of these different items within them. So let's take a look at how this is organized. You'll see on day 1, you've got lesson 1. Day 2 is lesson 2. Day 3 is lesson 3, and so on. Looks like when we get to day 12 down here, there's a test, an oral test, and that's worth 100 points. Day 12 also has a written test for 100 points. And then the lessons continue, 13, 14, 15, 16. then there's another test. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see on day 171, there's a lesson. So this is really an entire year's worth of arithmetic curriculum here. There are 202 items total. So as you can see, especially if you're a planner or if you know exactly what you want to do over the course of a year, you can create a lesson plan that's incredibly detailed and has each and every lesson that you or your student are going to work on throughout the year. Have it all in here ready to go. Not necessarily know when you're going to do it, but at least have it ready to go so that when the time comes, you can basically choose, the next item here, schedule it, and create an assignment out of it for your student. So that's what a lesson plan is, and that's why it can be really time-saving and powerful feature. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and we're going to create a simple lesson plan. So let me jump back over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose add. I'm going to do add multiple. Now, I've been mentioning how lesson plan items are very similar to assignments. They look and feel a lot like that. This is no different, right? So when I'm going to create add multiple assignment, or excuse me, add multiple lesson plan items, it looks a lot like the add multiple assignment wizard that we saw earlier. Now, because I was in this Abeka arithmetic lesson plan, it wants me to create more items for that plan. But rather than do that, I'm going to create a new lesson plan here. So I could either pick an existing lesson plan, or if I want to create a new one, I can just type in a name that doesn't exist already. So I'm going to call this sample plan. And so it'll create that lesson plan when I do this. Well, let's go ahead and make these for Ancient History 1. And these will be lessons. Let's go ahead and pick a resource. And these all will be worth 10 points, sure. We'll continue to day numbers. So we're going to start on day 1 and we'll increment by 1. Then we'll continue to PLC. So we'll do a 1-part auto increment. These are lessons. We'll start with lesson 1 and let's end with lesson 15. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. So again, this is just a preview. It's just showing me what it's about to create. If I wanted to change anything, I could click on any one of these tabs back up here to go back and change things. But this looks good to me. It's 15 days. And it goes from lesson 1 to lesson 15. So let's go ahead and select all of these and then choose accept. So now if I go ahead and I load up this sample plan, there you go. I now have a 15-day lesson plan for Ancient History 1, and it goes from lesson 1 to lesson 15. Now let's say if I want to create a test at the end of this sequence, let's go ahead and create another item. I'll do add single. Again, for Ancient History 1, let's call this a test. And we'll make it worth 100 points. And this will be on day 16. So let's click save. So now I've created a test on day 16 worth 100 points. So pretty quickly, I created a 16-day lesson plan for Ancient History. It's obviously very simple, but I could continue this pattern and add more lessons and create an entire year's worth of lessons if I wanted to. If you are interested in learning how to create lesson plans and do it really efficiently, I definitely recommend checking out that lesson planning webinar that we did a while back. That recording is available for you because we talk about a lot of tips and strategies for creating lesson plans really efficiently, as well as, let's say, if you have a lesson plan that came with your curriculum, how to look at that. You might be on a sheet of paper or something and translate that into Homeschool Tracker in a way that makes sense. So definitely check that out. Okay, so let's go ahead now and we're going to import a lesson plan from the shared lesson plan library. So let's go ahead and check out the shared lesson plans. Now, if I want to just see a list of all of them, I can enter in a blank search here and hit go. And this is just an unedited list of all of the lesson plans in the shared lesson plan library. Last time I counted, there were over 1,000 of them. It's always growing, obviously. And these are created by other users. So that means a lot of them are great, but some of them might not be perfect either. So it's definitely kind of, check them out, see if they work for you. A lot of times they can be great starting points if you want to get some ideas, or if you want to import one and then modify it, you can definitely do that as well. If you are sharing lesson plans into this, as you can see as we go by, some of them have descriptions here, others do not, right? So if you're going to share one, I would recommend, putting in some descriptive text here so that other folks know what the lesson plan is about, where it's from, that sort of thing. But let's go ahead and enter in a search here. I'm going to search for reading. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this Usborne First Reading Level 1 lesson plan. And let's take a look at it. So it's a 15-day lesson plan. There's a lot of information here, different PLC information, different resources. So someone took the time to create this and share it with everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare this for import. Just click on that. And now first thing I need to do is give it a name. So a name for what it's going to be called when it comes into my account. So I'm just going to call this Reading 1. The next thing I can do is look at these items, and I can select them all or select the ones that I want to import. And then I could accept the selected items. Now, but before I do that, I also have an opportunity right now to edit this if I like. And I happen to notice that for subject course, it's just language arts. So that means it's just coming in under the subject of language arts, not really tied to a course yet. So I could import this and I could multi-edit that later, but I can also do it right now. So I'm going to click on Action and choose Multi-Edit. And I'm going to change the subject course to Language Arts / Reading 1 so that they're all kind of assigned, if you will, to the Reading 1 course that we created earlier. So I've gone and done that. And now you'll notice here too, we're under Activity and under Resource where there's an asterisk and it says New. That just means that those items, they don't exist in my account. So it's going to create those when it imports it, which is handy. So with all of these selected, I'm going to choose Accept. And these are going to get imported. And so here we are back in my account, and I have the Reading 1 lesson plan opened here, and this is ready for use. So I have a 15-day lesson plan that I just imported that I could go ahead and schedule and assign to my students. So let's go ahead and try that now. Let's say I want to go ahead and assign this lesson plan to my students. What I'll do is I'll just pick the first 5 days. So I'll pick days 1 through 5, and I'll choose Action Scheduler. So if we go back to that visual, right, of the stack of papers on your desk. So in this case, it was 15 days. Let's say there's 15 sheets of paper on your desk and it says, Reading 1 lesson plan. I just took the first 5 of those off of the top of it. And I'm going to go put them in the copy machine and copy off 5 copies, and I'm going to go assign them to Campbell. So that's kind of how I like to think about this, right? So I can choose which students I want to assign it to, and I can go continue to day and date. So I'm going to schedule this for every day, and I'm going to pick a time. Let's go from 10 to 12. I'm actually going to have it start yesterday, so I can just fill out this week, just for our purposes. And I can choose to continue until all selected items in lesson plan are used, or I can continue to an end date. Now I'm going to choose this first one because I picked 5 items from the lesson plan, so I know it'll fill out the whole week. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to preview. And again, this is just a preview. So Monday will be day 1, and this is the information there. And then Tuesday is day 2, and so on. So let's go ahead and select these and then choose Accept. Okay, so now if I go to my agenda, and let's go to the calendar view, you'll notice that I have Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I have, these are essentially days 1 through 5 of that lesson plan. So if I open them and take a look, this was day 1 of the lesson plan. This is day 2. They're all different, right? So very quickly, I was able to create 5 assignments from what are essentially kind of assignment templates that are already created for me and schedule them for Campbell's week ahead. So again, when we think about workflow, if you have, say, lesson plans created for your different courses, you could go in on Monday or Sunday night and schedule them for the whole week, and you've done the hard work really of entering all that information or importing it from the library ahead of time, and your kind of day-to-day sort of work within Homeschool Tracker is minimized, right? And that's why all of you folks being on right now, especially in the summer, is a great time to start working with Homeschool Tracker. Is you could create all these lesson plans over the next month or 2. And then when it comes to the school year, you just load up those lesson plans, schedule them as you go week by week, and you're good to go. So that's how you would schedule a lesson plan. And that's kind of what we call our basic scheduler. I want to show you now a more advanced scheduler because as you saw, I had to select which ones I wanted. I had to schedule them individually. And if I had to do that for, say, 8 different courses, it might take a little bit longer than I want. Now, we also have a more advanced scheduler. So I'm going to show you that in our lesson plans and presets page here. And what the advanced scheduler does is it allows you to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. Now, it does take a little bit longer to load here because it's loading up a number of different lesson plans. Here we go. And so these are the active lesson plans that I have for Campbell using this advanced scheduler. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this list, and I'm going to add in that lesson plan that we just imported. Here it is. So I'm going to check this box here for reading 1. Then I'm going to go to this button here called preset. Now, what a preset is as you look at this, it looks like a calendar, and it just shows me my week. And each one of these blocks here, these are presets that I've already created. What they are preset blocks of time when I want a specific subject course to occur throughout the week. So for example, from 9 to 10, Monday through Friday, I've kind of blocked out Ancient History 1. From 10 to 11 is spelling, and so on. Now, what that means is that when I run this scheduler, it's going to schedule those specific courses in those specific blocks that I've designated here in the presets. So let's go ahead and create a new preset for a course. I'm going to create one for reading 1. I'm going to have it start at 3 o'clock and go to 4 o'clock. And we'll do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There we go. So now I have a preset for reading 1 from 3 to 4. Now, if I go to the scheduler, I can basically select the lesson plans that I want to schedule, and I can choose those presets as the times when I want them to schedule. So here I can choose which lesson plans I want to schedule. I'm going to select all of these. There are 1, 2, 3, 7 of them, and I'm going to continue to day and date. Now, when I get to day and date, I have, again, all these same options here. Instead of choosing every day or week, whatever, I'm going to choose preset. So when I choose this preset option, the scheduler is going to look at the lesson plan item. It's going to see what subject course that lesson plan item is for. And then it's going to find the next available time slot based off of the preset, and it's going to slot it right in there. So I'm going to choose the start date. I'm going to choose next Monday because I'm going to schedule this for next week. And I'm going to continue until next Friday. So I'm going to basically do all of next week, 5 days. So let's continue to preview. Okay, so here we go. We have 47 items, right? So each one of these is highly unique, right? So first off, on Monday is Ancient History 1 from 9 to 10. You remember I have 9 to 10 blocked out as the preset for Ancient History 1. And this is pulling from day 7 of that lesson plan. And it looks like there are two basically activities, two assignments for Ancient History 1 during that time slot. Then is spelling from 10 to 11. I want to jump down to 3 to 4, and here's reading 1. So it's pulling day 6 from reading 1. Now, you'll notice it's pulling day 6, right? Because we had already scheduled days 1 through 5. It knows where we left off. So it knows to go to the 6th day in that lesson plan because we already scheduled days 1 through 5. So this is really where the power of lesson plans really starts to come out, right? Because you don't need to remember where you left off. It keeps track of that for you. So that's why this day column here, I'm already on day 91 of physical science, day 7 of all about spelling, and it's finding the next available one, and it's scheduling it at the specific time that I've already designated. So that's why this whole week is going to get filled out here at exactly the right times, and it's going to be exactly the right lesson plan item or assignment that we left off on. So let me go ahead and select all of these and choose accept. So what it's doing now, it's creating all 47 of those assignments from 7 different lesson plans, and it's scheduling them over those various preset times. So when we think about workflow again, right? So obviously we've kind of graduated up in workflow, right? So this is probably the most advanced type of workflow we might find, where you have lesson plans for all of your courses, you've got presets for all of them. But if I went in here on a Sunday night, spent just a couple minutes like we just did, and scheduled all of my lesson plans for the week ahead at preset times. Let's go to next week. There you go. Then I would have 47 assignments ready to go for my student. And all I had to do was just click on a few buttons. So here's next week for Campbell. Obviously a packed week here, but these are all very specific assignments happening at very specific times. But I didn't have to do a ton of work to get there because it was all kind of set up for me ahead of time. So that's really the beauty and the power of lesson plans, both from kind of a more introductory level, like we saw with, a simple 10, 15-day plan and scheduling them, a few items at a time, all the way up to scheduling 7 different lesson plans at once across preset times that we've designated. So you kind of see, the range of what you can do with a lesson plan. Okay. So just to recap, we saw an example lesson plan. We created a simple one. We imported one from the lesson plan library, and then we scheduled them both using kind of the simple scheduling method as well as the more advanced one. Okay, so let's talk briefly about reports. So reports, as we mentioned earlier, they can be created as PDF files that you could save, print, or send. And the daily task list, this is a great report to use on a day-to-day basis, which I'll show you here in a minute. And then transcripts and report cards, those can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So let's take a look at the daily task list. I'm going to go here to the menu and choose daily task list. Now, there are a lot of different options here, right? I can create a daily task list with any number of these options checked. I'm going to kind of keep these the default for now. I can choose what student I want this for, if I want it for specific subjects and courses. But I'm going to go ahead and do this for next week. So those 5 days that we just scheduled, the 31st to the 4th. So I'll go ahead and generate report. Then I'll click on pick up report, and it downloads a PDF file. And so here it is. So this is a PDF file. It's 4 pages. I could print this out, put it up on a bulletin board or a clipboard, and Campbell would have everything she needs for the week ahead. So it's very similar, obviously, to the agenda. It has all the items listed out here, the times, all the details for each assignment. And so right here in 4 pages, she's got all 47 assignments ready to go for next week. So that's the daily task list. Really powerful tool, simple, especially if you like to print things out. This is a great report to use. Okay, and like I mentioned with transcripts and report cards, they can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So if you haven't done any grading or you haven't completed any assignments, those courses, they're not going to show up in a transcript or report card yet. You have to have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course for that course to show up in a transcript or report card. Okay, so just to recap a little on workflows, and obviously we covered this along the way tonight, but you can absolutely just create and complete single assignments on a daily basis, right? There's nothing saying that you can't do that. In fact, I think it's a great way to start out if you're just starting with Homeschool Tracker. It's also a great way to do it if, say, you're not much of a planner, you're more of an unschooler, or you just like to kind of see where the day takes you. You could go in at the end of the day, go in at night and log all of the things that you did that day. And then you can still obviously take advantage of all the reports and the report cards and transcripts and everything from Homeschool Tracker because you're still putting all that data in. You might just be doing it at the end of the day versus ahead of time, right? So that's one type of workflow. And then you could go all the way up to like the super advanced workflow that we talked about just a few minutes ago, where you have lesson plans for each course and presets and all of that, and you could schedule things and have everything planned out ahead of time, right? So you can use Homeschool Tracker a number of different ways. It all really just depends on what style homeschooler you are, how much effort you want to put into it, and really what's important to you. Particularly, I always talk to users and kind of understand, it's good to understand what you want to get out of Homeschool Tracker before you start using it, right? So if transcripts are really important to you, then you want to make sure your courses and your subjects are set up right. That you're grading things, obviously, that if you're in high school, you're using credit units properly and all of those things. But if you're not worried about transcripts right now, then you don't need to worry about that, right? If time spent is really important to you, like you need to send the time spent reports to the state, for example, then you want to make sure you're keeping track of that. So it really just depends on what kind of reports or what kind of features you want to get out of the program. That will help dictate, kind of what you put into it, right? So definitely good things to think about. Okay, I think that's it. Just been talking for 55 minutes nonstop, so thank you for enduring that. Let's go ahead and answer any questions that you might have. I see Bonnie had asked a question, I think earlier. She says, "Do you have to set the agenda first, then lesson plan, scheduler, then assignment?" Seems redundant. I think she was asking this as we were going. So hopefully, Bonnie, we answered your question as we went. If it didn't, feel free to send another question in there to help clarify that. But um, at least based off of the question, it looks like we hadn't gotten to the lesson plans yet in the evening. So hopefully we answered that along the way. But again, as you guys are thinking of any questions that you want to submit, I did mention we are recording this, so we'll send out a recording to each of you as soon as available. We'll also send out a survey that we'd love for you to answer that just kind of asks, how you found this webinar to be helpful, if you have any ideas for future webinars, that sort of thing. And then last but not least, we also, for each and every one of you that have joined us tonight, we greatly appreciate you taking the time out because that's means so much to us. So what we'd like to do is for all of you that are current customers of Homeschool Tracker, we will credit your account with a free month so that you get a free month of Homeschool Tracker totally on us. If you're not yet a user, we'll be able to see that, and we can get you set up for a free month if you'd like to do that. Okay, it looks like we're going to have some questions coming in now. So Bonnie had then asked, will I set my class times in the agenda? Do I have to do it again to get it under the preset? Let's see. So it's important to remember that there are no set class times, right? There's just times that you can add to an assignment. So if you want a class, quote unquote, a class to happen at a specific time, then you can basically just, as you're creating those assignments, set those times accordingly to the times that you want them to happen. Now, if you're using lesson plans and presets, specifically presets, then you can definitely, you could set kind of a block of time when you want the scheduler to schedule those specific assignments. So if it's 10 to 11, Monday through Friday, for reading one, for example, then you could set those up in the presets. And then when you go to schedule your lesson plans, then it'll schedule it for that time slot. But it's important to remember that there isn't necessarily like a set time for a class, that each assignment is unique in and of itself. So you have to basically give it the time that you want it to occur. So hopefully that is helpful, Bonnie. Let's see. Jillian's asking, I'm completely new to homeschooling, so please forgive this potentially silly question, but I'm not sure what a lesson plan is. Does it give information and assignments? Is it something that I can use to teach my daughter a subject? So a lesson plan is basically it's a sequence of items, right? And those items are basically what will become assignments in the future. So let me just go back here. It's much easier when I have something to show you. So let me go ahead and pull up that, make this a Becca arithmetic plan. So this is a lesson plan for math. Now, if I open one of these items, now obviously this alone is not going to teach anybody anything, right? All it says is, this is for a math course. It's a lesson, and the PLC is lesson 1. So most likely, right, this lesson plan item goes with a corresponding book of some kind. So it's important to remember that you can use Homeschool Tracker with any curriculum that you might have. So if you have a book, let's say you have an arithmetic book and it's like a workbook or a textbook, we're not going to try to copy and paste all of the text and everything from that book into Homeschool Tracker, right? That would be kind of silly. Instead, we're going to use Homeschool Tracker as kind of your planner and grade book alongside of that physical curriculum that you might possess. So if you were to just have the physical book by itself, that's fine, but it wouldn't allow you to do the same things that we can do within Homeschool Tracker, right? So let's say you just had the book and you're like, okay, let's go through here and do lesson 1. You go and you do it, and then now what, right? Like you completed it, but nobody knows that you did, and you didn't have a good way to track it. That's what Homeschool Tracker is for, and that's what these lesson plan items are for. So as you go through and you create assignments out of them and you complete a lesson in the book, you could go back in here and tell it that you completed it, and you can give it a grade, and it'll keep track of that. So you can kind of think of Homeschool Tracker as something that kind of follows along with you with the physical books and curriculum that you might have in your possession. But it's not a replacement for that by any means, right? Now, I have seen users where they put a lot of information right into the lesson plan items or the assignments. You have these directions fields here. You have the notes fields. You could put a ton of info right in here, and so there's nothing stopping you from basically having a fully teachable lesson within this item altogether. But that's not necessarily the idea. Like you definitely could do that. But that might work for certain types of courses. If it's kind of a research lesson plan or research assignment where it's like, research these 5 things. Here's some links to use, and then you know, do an activity or write a paper or something about it. That might work. But if you have a book that goes along with it, most likely the lesson plan item or the assignment is just kind of a reference to what you're doing with the physical book. Hopefully that's helpful, Jillian. Carrie's asking, can you make a list of items needed for maybe science or art and then print items needed? Yeah, you can. So let me go back over here. So there are a few options. If you go to your program options, right, there are a number of optional fields. So here I am in the program options. There's different options for the agenda, for attendance, for grading. And then there's this optional fields tab over here. Okay, so there are a number of optional fields that I don't currently have enabled. Now you have one here specifically called supplies. So if I check that box for supplies, now in every assignment, I will have another field that says supplies. I'll also have let me see here. Let's go ahead and open one of these. Yep, so here now I have a supplies field. And so I can add a new type of supply like, markers or something, and a quantity of markers, right? That doesn't entirely make sense, but let's just say that's what it is. And I can click save. And so now I can keep track of supplies that are required for this particular assignment. And I believe that you can then also create a supplies report, right? So now, because I enabled that optional field, I've also unleashed a new report that's available to me called the supplies report. So I can generate a supplies report for incomplete or complete assignments for a specific date range. Let's go ahead and see if this will work here. I'm going to extend this date out. I'm going to generate this report. Thought that might happen. I forgot which one I put that on. Let's go ahead and add another one here. Okay, I'm going to remember this time. So this was on the second. Okay. So let's see if this works. We'll go to supplies and we will do it for incomplete assignments. Let's try this. There we go. So now I have a report and I know that I need 10 markers on August 2nd. So, that's obviously by itself, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but let's say you had an entire semester or, an entire week or a section that you're doing. You could put in all the supplies needed for those assignments. And then before you get to that section, generate the supplies report and you'll know everything you needed on a particular date. So hopefully that is helpful, Carrie. Okay. So James is asking, how do you add a new grading option pass fail? I only see one option under the grade tab. Great question, James. So if we go to the grading scales under the manage list section of the menu, by default, everybody's account starts with this default grading scale, which is kind of, a decent standard grading scale that you might be familiar with. An A is a 90% or above, a B is an 80%, so on. If I wanted to create a new type of grading scale, I could just go to Action and choose Add, and I could create a new grading scale. So I could call this one Pass Fail, for example, and I could go ahead and set this up for Pass Fail. I could try to do it right now. You're going to put me on the spot, though. Let's see. So let's figure it out. So we're going to do a new Oh man, I don't want to do this on the spot because I don't want to mess it up. Not mess it up, but I don't want to have to learn as I do it with you. I will say though, and again, this is a great opportunity to um, kind of show you the help guide right here. If I click on help, there's this huge, massive help guide here that talks about this. And in fact, there's a section on creating a pass fail grading scale. Oh yeah, okay. So I was going to do it right. But anyway, if you literally read these 3 paragraphs, it'll make perfect sense to you how to do it. I just didn't wanna have to mess up in front of everybody. But anyway, if you create that grading scale here, the pass fail one, then in let's go ahead and just create something. This might not be exactly correct. So, okay, don't quote me on how I just did that. I'm just doing it just for an example right now. But let's say we just created the pass fail grading scale. Now, if I go to courses, and let's say math 6, that sounds hard. I'm going to go and I'm going to choose pass fail instead of the default grading scale. So that's really the cool part about having courses, right? Is each course can be set up differently in terms of the grading scale it's using. I can this grading scale or this course could use weighted grading, and a different one didn't necessarily need to. But that's where you would choose which grading scale you want that particular course to use. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, James. Definitely check out that help page though for the grading scale, and make sure you follow those directions on the pass fail one. I didn't want to rush through it and lead you astray. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, Carrie's asking for week or month. Not sure. Okay, this was in reference to the supply report that we did. It looks like we were able to answer your question there, Carrie. Jennifer's asking, is there a preferred browser that HSTO, Homeschool Tracker Online, runs best on? We like to use Chrome, the Google Chrome browser. That's what I'm using right here. And it's the one that we test everything on. I mean, we test it on all the browsers, but it's definitely our go-to browser. It seems to run really fast. All the features work really well. We do occasionally have users run into issues using Safari sometimes. I use Safari as well, and it seems to work fine. But I have noticed at times if Apple makes a change to Safari, sometimes those changes aren't the same as what Google might do with Chrome. So anyway, we just like to use Chrome, but it's totally up to you. Obviously, your preference of browser. What I will say, a lot of times, if a support request comes in and there's some kind of weird anomaly happening, we all a lot of times recommend you try using a different browser to troubleshoot to see if it's just that particular browser or if it's something wrong with the site. So that's always a good way to kind of double check to make sure if things are a global issue or just something specific to your browser. I will also say there's certain kind of plugins for your browser that may cause issues sometimes, like if you have different blockers installed or that sort of thing. So again, when it comes to troubleshooting, we oftentimes may recommend people turn things on or off to make sure to try to find the source of the problem. But typically, we don't have any problems with Chrome. Even with ad blockers and all that stuff on there, it seems to work just fine. So hopefully that answers your question, Jennifer. Okay. Amber's asking, can you preset holidays, vacations, and so on for the year that you'll be taking off into the program so that my lesson plans will enter around the holidays or vacations? Sorry if this is a basic question, but it's our second year to homeschool, and I subscribed earlier today for Homeschool Tracker. I've not had time to look around in the program. Not a silly question at all, Amber. Thanks so much for asking. So yeah, absolutely. You can definitely set up days off within your agenda ahead of time. And then when you go to schedule things or create assignments or schedule lesson plans, you can select an option to skip over days off. So let me just show you a quick example of that. Let's go into the agenda and let's just go to this week here, August 7th. So I'm going to go ahead and choose add, and I'm going to choose day off. So let's just do it for both students here. We're going to have a holiday. Let's just call this a birthday. And let's do this on August. oops, 7th. And I could have this be a range. So if we're taking off the whole week for vacation or something, I could do August. I could do a date range, for example. I'm just going to take off one day though, just so I can show you. And so I can choose if in this case, I'm just doing one day. So continue to preview. So it's going to add a day off for both Campbell and Manning on Monday, August 7th. Yeah. So I'll accept that. Now, we have a couple of blog posts on this, but I recommend when you're planning your homeschool year to think about holidays and days off ahead of time, right? So if you know you're going to take off 2 weeks at Christmas and go, visit somebody or whatever it might be, go ahead and block that out ahead of time. If you want to do like a spring break, do that. If you want specific holidays, go ahead and block those off, just so that your calendar's kind of set, right? And that way, it doesn't surprise you later when you get up to, December 15th, and you're like, oh, I'm trying to schedule my next week, but we're actually going out of town. Like you can just have this stuff kind of set up already. So now let's say I wanted to schedule um, a lesson plans for this week. Let me just, well, I'll show you in under assignment multiple. This will work as well. So let's just go ahead and create some assignments here, and we'll continue to day and date. So right here, this is the key. So when you're scheduling, whether it be scheduling assignments or scheduling lesson plan items, you can choose this button right here, skip days off. So even if I choose August 7th, it's going to skip August 7th because I have that as a day off. So let's just try it. We're going to have it every day, and we're going to have it start on August 7th, even though I know that's a day off. So we'll call this lesson 1 through 5, and we'll continue to preview. And so here on the preview, look at this, right? So I said, hey, start on August 7th, but it didn't. It's starting on the 8th because August 7th is a day off. So it won't even allow me to schedule something for that day because it's set as a day off. So hopefully that answers your question, Amber. Okay, Jennifer's asking, how do you reschedule all the assignments when you say have an unexpected day off, like a sickness? It's a great question. I always wait for somebody to ask that because it's a good one. So let's go over here and I'm just gonna delete these days off right now. So let's look at this week here, right? Because this is a really full week. Let's say we get to Monday, the 31st, and Campbell is sick on Monday and doesn't get anything done. And so I want to basically shift all of this work forward a day so that she can catch up and not catch up, but kind of start on Tuesday instead. Well, what I want to do, well, actually, before I get there, probably the easiest way to reschedule something is literally just click and drag, right? You could take something, you can move it around right here on the calendar view. That, however, does not work if I needed to move all 47 of these items, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the list view, and I'm going to pull up next week. And so here's all 47 of next week's items. So I'm going to select all of them. And I'm going to choose Action, Reschedule. So I'm going to change the start date from the 31st to the 1st. So basically, instead of all those things happening on the 31st, they're going to happen on the 1st and go on from there. And I'll continue to preview. And so this shows you the existing date and the new date. So everything that was on Monday is now on Tuesday. Everything that's on Tuesday is now on Wednesday, and so on. So I'll select all of those and just choose Accept. So now if I go back to the calendar view, just because it's kind of easy to visualize there, you'll see that Monday is now wide open. So Campbell was sick all day Monday, but now come Tuesday, she's ready to go and can get going. And if you look to next week, now it kind of bumped us into next week as well. So this is, I should have mentioned this earlier, but this is also why we recommend only scheduling like 1 or 2 weeks at a time. Like, because you have all these lesson plans and you can create all these items, there's kind of a temptation to go ahead and schedule like your entire year all up front. We would not necessarily recommend doing that. It kind of defeats the purpose of having the flexibility of a tool like this and the flexibility of homeschooling altogether. But scheduling just 1 week or 2 weeks at a time gives you that power to be able to move things around really easily. What if in the case someone got sick, or if you did like an unexpected vacation, or if your students are working faster or slower, right? It gives you that ability to kind of be flexible. So definitely recommend only scheduling like 1 or 2 weeks at a time. Okay, so let's say Campbell is sick again on Tuesday, and we don't want to lose another day, right? We want to kind of catch up. So what I want to do is let's just bump Tuesday over. So if I go back to the list view, and I'm just going to select Tuesday's items. That's August 1st right here. And I can choose action, reschedule those. And I'm basically going to move that from Tuesday to Wednesday. And now when I do that, you'll notice I get this kind of green, it says existing item. Basically, this is saying, hey, you're moving all this stuff to Wednesday, and you already have a bunch of stuff on Wednesday. So it's kind of a conflict, and that's okay. I know that's the case. Basically, we're going to double up her work on Wednesday so that she can get caught up. So now if I go back to the calendar view, you'll see that Tuesday is now clear, Wednesday, lots of extra work. But we did not move into the following Tuesday. So that we don't lose another day, essentially. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Jennifer, on how to do rescheduling. Those are the two most common rescheduling scenarios, right? Where you need to basically bump everything forward a day, or you just need to bump the current day or one day forward a day. Okay, Carrie's asking, when you are in the agenda calendar view, can you extend the tabs for a full-time view? It seems some items are cut off. I'm not sure what you mean by tabs, but yeah, I mean, obviously there's only so much space here, right? So you can hover over these. So like, for example, this one, because there's 3 items all happening at the same time, it gets kind of squished here. But if I hover over it, I get kind of a little preview here. So that says Campbell, ancient, I see basically everything. The other thing is I'm kind of zoomed in right now for the purposes of the webinar. If I kind of take my browser back to zoom out a bit, you can kind of start to see more. You get more real estate essentially. The last thing I'll say in terms of viewing more on here is you can obviously change. I can like view one day at a time. So here's just Wednesday. In this case, I can see pretty much everything that I need to. One other trick I forgot. Oh yeah, if I go to my program options and under the agenda, I can change the hourly increments. So this will make more sense when you see it. Right now, they're at 30 increments in terms of where those like kind of hash marks are. If I go to 15-minute increments and click save, I believe that will make all of the blocks bigger essentially. So see how they're all like taller now? Because now there's 4 of these boxes within every hour. So that can kind of help improve your view as well. Now, the chances, this is obviously just a hypothetical scenario where Campbell has 4 things all happening at the same time. Your student might not have that. And that's also why you have the ability to filter things here at the top. So if you had multiple students on here, let's say you had 4 kids and they're all doing lots of stuff, yeah, this would definitely get kind of busy to look at, which is why we have the filters. So you could just view one student at a time and so you can see that and kind of go back and forth. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful, Carrie. So Jennifer's asking, how do you set the presets? So that was from the lesson plans and presets screen here. So I'll go back to lesson plans and presets under the students section of the menu. And this takes a little bit longer to load just because it's pulling in all this data for the different lesson plans that we're using. But once it comes up here, you can click on preset. You can choose which student you're working with and then choose preset. You can also change the student here as well. And if I want to set the presets, so I had all of these kind of set here. Let's go ahead and create a new one. I'll go to add. And presets, again, they're based off of the course, right? So let's pick a course that I don't have one for. And I think let's try this one. And for CLE Reading 2, that's going to happen from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And let's just have that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so there. Now I have a preset for this course, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you'll notice too that these are bigger now because I changed that to 15-minute increments. So, it's totally up to you how you like to look at things. I'm going to change that back to 30 minutes just because that's how I like to have it. But everybody's different. So hopefully that answers your question, Jennifer, on how to set the presets. You can obviously edit the presets there as well. Okay, so Amber's asking, you show that you can print off a PDF daily checklist for your student each day, but is there a way that you can send it to your student digitally and they can check it off on their computer instead of a piece of paper? Absolutely. That's really what Homeschool Tracker is all about. We would prefer that you don't have to print things. So what we recommend in that case is you can have your student log in to Homeschool Tracker, either using your account, or you can create an account for them. So if you want to create an account for your students, you go to your subscription and users page here. And for every student that you have, here at the bottom under user accounts, you'll have the name of your student. And if you've created a user account for them, there will be their username and it'll say active, yes or no. So I have created a user account for Campbell. If I wanted to create one for Manning right here, let's say, I could say, I'll make it active and I could give him a username and password, and then I could set the permissions for him. I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll show you what Campbell's looks like. Let me go ahead and log out real quick. And so basically, you would create a username and password for your student, and they would have access to Homeschool Tracker as well. And you can turn on or off different permissions based off of what you want them to be able to do. So if I log in as Campbell, you'll see instantly that her view looks very different than mine, right? She only has access to certain things here. So if I go to the calendar view for Campbell, she sees all of her assignments. She sees her attendance records. She won't see other students, I think at least. And she sees everything she needs to do here. So if she opens up an assignment, she can see all the details. She can't change these because I turned off that ability, but she can mark things complete, right? So you can check student complete for these things. So this is really kind of the dream scenario, right? If your students are old enough and you want them in here, you can create user accounts for them. You can go in, create all the assignments for them, and then be basically like, okay, log into Homeschool Tracker, find out what you need to do. And as they go through their day, they just kind of open these up, read the assignment, and when they're finished, they mark it complete, right? So mark that complete. I'm going to mark this complete. I'm going to mark this complete. I'm just going to do this as an example, right? So let's say Campbell, let's say it's Thursday of next week, and she marked all of these things complete. And let's say she didn't finish everything. She just did those. Now, if I go back to my account, and I go to the calendar view, I can open up this and I can see that it's been marked student complete. Now, this is also where these filters come in handy, right? So if I'm the teacher and I've gone in and I've created all the assignments at the beginning of the week, and now it's the end of the week or the end of the day, and I just want to see what Campbell did or what she thinks she accomplished over the week, I can basically change this completion status filter to just view things that are student complete. So now this is almost like my personal inbox as the teacher, right? I don't really care about the things she hasn't done yet because those are her responsibility. I just need to look at the things that she says that she's completed. And I can go in here and be like, okay, she says that she did this. I look at the physical copy of the work or whatever it is, and I can say, okay, great. I can grade it if I wanted to. And now I can go in and kind of authorize the teacher complete and save it. And that's kind of the dream scenario, right? Where it's all digital. We didn't need to print anything out. And we're good to go. So hopefully that answers your question, Amber. Okay, any other questions out there? Definitely covered a lot, which is great. So feel free to ask any other questions if you have anything. Again, we will send out a recording of this probably by tomorrow to all of your emails. And like I mentioned before, for everybody that joined us today, we will credit your account with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. Okay, let's see. Amber's asking, when I was setting up my daughter as a student, it had the start date and maybe graduation date. Not sure what the language was. Do I enter the end of this school year or the year that she's projected to graduate? She's entering the fourth grade. Oh, okay. So when you created your student, I believe this is what you're talking about. This is probably the form that you were looking at, Amber, when you created your student. Um, Expected graduation date. That's literally like, yeah, if she's entering fourth grade, we're talking, whatever that is, 8 years from now, right? Or 9 years. So you could put a graduation date in there if you like. You don't have to, right? Because she's going into fourth grade. Unless you wanted, you could certainly have graduation from uh, elementary school or middle school or whatever. It's totally up to you. Typically, this expected graduation date, the only reason it exists there is because it'll show up in a transcript, right? So again, when we think about what we put into Homeschool Tracker, it's all about what we want to get out of it. So, for example, if you needed to generate a transcript when your student was like a sophomore or junior in high school, they haven't graduated yet, but their expected graduation date is, June 2020 or something like that. Then you could put that in there. You could. This is just a free text field, right? You could put in any sort of thing you want in here, and that is used in the event that you wanted to submit a transcript to a college or to an employer or somebody, and have kind of an expected graduation date on there. For your purposes, you probably don't need to do that yet. It's totally up to you. So again, Homeschool Tracker is really kind of like a open platform. It's very flexible in terms of what you can do with it. You'll see all these fields right in here: parent, guardian, email, entrance date. Your fourth grader might not have an email address yet, right? All of these things totally optional. The only reason you would put things in here is if you wanted them to show up somewhere, right? If you don't have a need for that, then you don't need to put it in. It's really there just for the purposes, typically for a report down the line. So most of the information, especially here in the student edit student page, is typically for report cards and transcripts. So hopefully that answers your question, Amber. Okay. Well, I think we're winding down here, folks. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate each and every one of you. I know summertime, it can be stressful kind of getting ready for school. So we're here for you. That's ultimately, if you leave here tonight, I want you to know that we've got another webinar August 22nd, I believe. Feel free to register for that one. Ask any questions you may have. If after you've used it for a month, you want follow-up questions and you want us to answer them live, we'll see you on that webinar. Might as well do it then, right? Or email us anytime, support@homeschooltracker.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us again, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good night, everyone.